Guys, welcome back to these videos where I explain what's happening in the world of slopestyle. Last weekend, there was the Rotorua stop, the first diamond event of Crankworx this year. It's the highest category where riders give their best because that's where the biggest prizes are. More points, which are needed to win the overall, basically a lot of important things for these competitions. We are in Rotorua, New Zealand, on the other side of the planet, so the event was live streamed here in Europe at around 11 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. We're on the same course as last year. There are 9 jumps. Nothing has changed this year except for one more bump before the last jump. And the big highlight this year was the wind. You could see big calls, video calls from the flag to the rider who had to start, things never seen before, a lot of time wasted waiting. These guys were watching the flag. From my point of view, it was pretty useless there too because you start in the woods 200 meters from the finish, and by the time you get to the end where the wind is, like 40 seconds go by, so there's plenty of time for Gus to change everything down there. Anyway, whatever, still. Also, in this case, the new Shutout format was used again. What does it mean compared to previous editions? Starting this year, this new format was tested at the Gold Stage 2 weeks ago. It consists of doing 2 runs and then a last run, so another trick after the 2 runs. Only the top riders in the ranking do this. It could change the final outcome of the event a bit and also keep the audience entertained until the end. Compared to the editions from 2 weeks ago, this shoutout trick has been changed. In the scoring, if last time it was worth 0 to 10 points, this time they made it 0 to 5. Don't ask me why, I don't know. I'd like to know who makes these decisions. Anyway, that's how it is, but let's go with the big recap to see what happened. Because guys, for me, this edition was one of the longest 3 hours and 50 minutes of live broadcast. But in the first hour, basically, nothing really happened. Let's start with the girls, who in the first run, I think thought they were still in practice, since half of them stopped on the course. For trivial reasons. I don't know, they just stopped, cutting it really short on the jump before. Like, I'll just stop here. Tragic. The most striking case was Robin Gooms, who came up short on the boner log where the next jump is just a roller. So all she had to do was do a manual and keep going. She would have still gotten a score, but nothing. She decided to stop for a full 3 minutes, then started again, and took a huge risk on the step down that almost ended her day. Even the current number 1, Alma Wigberg, who won the Crankworx Joy last year and several other stages. After a crooked flip on the hip that treated her a bit badly, she decided to stop. The bike was intact, just a few pedal strokes, and she would have finished, landing a big trick with the flip on the hip. Not perfect, but let's appreciate the effort. And for those who were paying close attention and followed the live stream, they might have noticed that during the entire first run, up until the last rider, no scores were given. This is because it was decided for this edition that during the first run, scores will not be shown at the end of each individual run, but will be given at the end of the first round. This way, the judges have a chance to better manage the scores, avoid messing up, and maybe adjust things a bit if they made any mistakes. It makes sense. And it definitely makes our lives easier. And this way, it also keeps things a bit suspenseful until the end of the first run for those watching at home. The plot twists for the women's event are seen in the second run, especially with Robin Gooms, who, after her super long call with the flag that seemed to last forever, finally started. She did her run with a couple of backflip combos and some straight jumps. But the incredible thing, guys, is that she crashed on the second attempt with this 360 on the last jump, landed backward, and survived by a miracle. Despite everything, this run earned her second place. Incredible. But in first place, the newcomer Johanna, who had, let's say, an easy time, since we didn't see anything great from the others, laughs. But she still did a complete run. She landed all the jumps except for the spine, and she also showed us a nice 36 bar spin and a backflip bar spin on the last jump. So, very good. Johanna is doing her homework. Instead, you may have noticed at the end of the first run that the name Patricia Druin appeared in the ranking with 0 points. The girl didn't drop in this time either. It's not clear what's happening. She's skipping all the stages. She shows up, does the practice, and this video proves it. That triple bar spin backflip thrown on that jump. There, yes, but after that, she doesn't participate and she didn't fall, she didn't get injured. I think every time she goes there, she shows up but doesn't participate due to her own mental issues or something. Well, I'm amazed. I mean, it's been 4 years now, I don't know. Since she joined Red Bull in 4 years, she did the events. Only the first one she stopped participating. but we're still here. Big credit also goes to Shalon Reno, who was in pole position in the first run and then got pushed down, ending up in third place. But she messed up this attempt at Supreme Secret on the last jump. Landed a bit badly. But she's tough and got up right away without too many problems. And in this case, you also notice that if there isn't an improvement in the second run, the judges now bring up this DNI, which means did not improve. To speed up the live broadcast, a lot. Well, speed up. Even though this live broadcast lasted 4 hours. So, final ranking, let's see. First place, Johanna. Second, Robin Goons. Third, Shalon Reno. Then, Harriet and Alma Wigber, who basically didn't make it past the third jump. Well done, Johanna, who takes home this first place. But let's move on to the men because, as always, at a stratospheric level, in fact, I have to say they're getting fewer and fewer. There were very few mistakes in the runs. In fact, we saw very few falls. The main twists were actually, first of all, the absence of Caden Igerson. I'm not sure why, but he wasn't at this event. He probably has budget issues, or I don't know. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see his performance. The second twist was Griffin Paulson, who unfortunately took a fall. And then in the second run, a short one, and he withdrew, while the other was Eric Fedko. After a crazy crash in the first run, trying a 360 Indian air where he missed the saddle, he went flying off. He took a massive fall here in the second run. In my opinion, he was a bit off his game because he missed several tricks. He still completed a run all the way to the end, but it was much lower level compared to his usual. Big props have to go to the new generation. In particular, Jack Fake, this Canadian guy who has an incredible style, very similar to Emil Johansson. Does a lot of tricks, very similar ones, a lot. In fact, you could see him start with an Oppo track from the drop. Oppo Davoli on the first hip. Plus other things. And in my opinion, he's someone who can grow a lot and do really well, because if I'm not mistaken, he's only 19 years old. The other one, on the other hand, a super rookie who's improving like crazy, is Dane Fulp, in my opinion, really underrated by the judges. He did some incredible tricks, like a flip triple bar spin off the step down, backflip bar spin to opposite tail whip. Even the commentators didn't notice. And then, on the last jump, he always throws his double flip 1-foot can-can. Come on, guys, 1.5 meters above everyone else. It's really incredible. By the way, for him, this is the only stop close to home because we're in New Zealand and he's Australian. Lucky break. Usually, he always has to fly 10-12 hours, or actually, what am I saying? 24 hours of flying. The ones who didn't make any mistakes were Nicola and Rogalkin, who actually only did the first run and then went straight to the shutout. Classic run from Nicola with his cash roll, twister, cash whip on the last jump. In short, always his usual tricks, but all landed one after the other without any problem, without any slip-up, which earned him a point. Nice, high score. In the first run, another rider who didn't make any mistakes, David Gossau, did his first run on command with his usual combos. Nice, precise, but not satisfied. He also did a second run, further improving his score. Because after all, there was the shutout coming up. He wanted to secure first place easily, and on his second run's last jump, he threw in a cash to table. Nice, really nice run. Anyway, as always, his tricks weren't anything new in this stage, but in my opinion, in the next ones, we'll see something different. After a bad first run, the good chance Moore recovered in the second one by doing a really complete run. Rotations forward and backward, 3-6 here, 3-6 there, all kinds of combos that put him in the top 6. For the shutout, he had a great run, and then in the shutout, he showed us a real gem. But we'll see that in a bit. Another great confirmation, Lucas Super, who after a perfect first run, improved even more in the second by throwing in a front triple barsman. Guys, he's the only one in the world who does it. And then, on the last jump, he also threw a beautiful twister, which, if you notice, his style is incredible. It almost looks like a front flip 720. His is really different from Gozek's and Nikolai's. So, an amazing run that brought him into the top 6, and he's also ready for the shutout. And here we saw some great things. I remind you that in the shutout, for now, the rider can choose which jump to do the trick on. And so I don't really like this because it makes the show much longer since it's like watching a third run. But with this format, they don't start at the top and go only as far as needed for their trick. This made us see some kind of boring scenes, like Chance Moore on the phone in the middle of his run, stopping, choosing music and all that, but still, it was a great show. So we saw good old Dane Fulp land his double backflip 1-foot canker, even higher than what he did in the first run. Polko 3 being pushed directly by Rolinda, Lou Irebol doing this half cab and dropping down, really a very technical trick. I don't know if it's extremely difficult. I've never tried it, but I don't know if I'd throw myself down from a drop. On the other hand, David Gozek finished with a cash roll. I think he wanted to do a cash whip to bar, but it didn't work out. But that trick was enough for him. Luca Supert did the 360 tailwind from the drop again. Guys, I'm telling you, it's extremely difficult, and he manages to do it every single time. Perfectly, spot on, and I hope he always does, because if you mess up those tricks, they throw you and you take a massive fall. But let's get to the point. There were two, where first was Nikolai Rogak with a triple tailwind from the boner log. And I think it's not that easy there because it's not as big as the one you might see in Whistler. But he nailed it perfectly, landing really, really long. But the other trick, which in my opinion was the most technical of all, the most difficult of all that we saw in this edition, was the Cork 720 tail whip by Chance Moore. He tried it last year in his run. He did it a few months ago at Swatch 9s on a gigantic jump. But this is the first time we've seen it in a competition. And he nailed it. Precise, clean. So, final results. Daddy Gauzy first, Luca Super second, Nicola Dragacci third. Moore, Paul Kodak, Dane Fulp, followed by Jack Fay, Toby May, Lucas Keogh, J.D. Chibman, Eric Fetko, and Griffin Paulson. Despite everything, the shoutout didn't change the final result at all. And in my opinion, there's a little problem that could be solved with a new rule. Simply making a rule that says you can't repeat a trick that's already been done in the run. And this would lead the riders to manage their runs differently, maybe saving a different trick just for the shoutout. At that point, something might change. Also, I think what doesn't work is starting from the top and letting them pick which jump to do the trick on. In my opinion, it should be a sort of show, so the shoutout should only be done on the last jump, the biggest jump, the one where you can do the best trick. I don't know, but a jump decided before the event, which will be the one designed for the shoutout. This way you eliminate dead time, people getting on their phones in the middle of a run and so on. And speed up this phase, which is fine. A third run, but then a third run. Everyone just goes straight to the jump they're interested in. And so it becomes even more boring than it's already becoming. Instead, by doing it the way I just explained, it becomes a sort of show because you have 6 riders. At the end, you do a quick interview, a rundown. They go one after the other, pop-pom, in 5 minutes. And maybe there's even a twist. And so this first diamond stop of the year ends here. The next twist will be at Whistler, which is usually the final stop, but this year it will be the second one. And then it will be followed by Crankle Silvestri, which will be, let's say, the qualifier for the last stop at Mont Saint-Anne, which will be the new event, the new course, and so on. So we'll see each other again in the first days of August for the Crankle at Whistler. Let me know down below in the comments if you think the judge's decision was fair. I didn't watch it again because it seemed pretty fair to me, but let me know. How do you think this Crank Wars should have ended? Rotorua 2026, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.